Look at the modern Manhattan skyline, and you see an unbroken forest of glass and steel. It is a vertical world. But the original settlement of New York was entirely flat, chaotic, and bound by the natural topography of a wild island. To tame that landscape, city leaders adopted the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. This plan dropped a rigid grid of 12 avenues and 155 cross streets over the island. It ignored hills and filled marshes to create standardized, predictable lots that were easy to develop. Once the grid was laid out, the city began to fill in. But after the Great Fire of 1835 destroyed hundreds of buildings in Lower Manhattan, officials enacted strict fire codes that severely limited the use of wood in construction. Builders turned immediately to brick and stone. This shift gave rise to the federal style of architecture, characterized by human-scale, 2- to 3-story red brick row houses with simple, clean lines. As the middle and upper classes expanded, these masonry homes evolved. Builders began facing them with Connecticut sandstone, creating the textured brownstone row houses that soon defined entire residential neighborhoods. By the mid-19th century, New York had locked in a rigid street map and a heavy masonry-based building code. It was a dense, highly ordered, but horizontal city. With a rapidly growing population squeezed within fixed borders, the pressure had nowhere to go but straight up. But building upward introduced an immediate mechanical problem. This cross-section demonstrates how municipal water pipes simply couldn't handle the pressure needed to push water past 6 stories. If you lived on the 7th floor, your taps ran dry. The city mandated a low-tech solution, the rooftop wooden water tower. Pumping water up to these tanks allowed gravity to do the work of pressurizing the plumbing below, a system so reliable it remains a staple of the skyline today. While developers pushed the vertical limits, engineers had to solve a horizontal one. New York is an archipelago of islands separated by deep, fast-moving rivers, and connecting the growing boroughs required massive physical expansion. This era produced monumental spans. In structures like the Brooklyn Bridge, designers pioneered structural expressionism, where the raw, functional materials, like steel suspension wire and massive Gothic stone arches, became the aesthetic itself. By mastering internal water pressure and spanning formidable rivers, 19th-century engineers demonstrated that New York could successfully conquer the physical limits of geography and gravity. At the turn of the 20th century, the invention of the steel frame and the passenger elevator allowed developers to abandon human-scale masonry. Giant commercial structures like the Woolworth Building suddenly towered nearly 800 feet over the traditional row houses. Because these early skyscrapers were built straight up from their lot lines, they created sheer, unregulated vertical walls. By 1915, these monoliths were casting enormous shadows, plunging the narrow streets below into darkness. To save the streets, the city passed the 1916 zoning resolution. This diagram shows how the new law required buildings to step back from the street at specific angles as they rose, and restricted towers of unlimited height to just 25% of the lot size. This strict legal formula physically sculpted the mass of new buildings. To maximize profitable square footage while obeying the law, developers carved their structures into a distinct tiered shape. Architects embraced this mandated geometry, marrying the new setbacks with the sleek aesthetics of the Art Deco movement. You can see this in the Chrysler Building, with its stepped tiers rising up to a famous steel-clad crown. The culmination of this era is the Empire State Building. Its massive tapering profile is a direct reflection of the 1916 zoning math pushed to its absolute limit. New York's iconic tapering skyline reflects a strict legal boundary, a physical compromise that allowed the sun to reach the pavement. After World War II, corporate tastes shifted. The ornate terracotta details and mandated wedding take setbacks of the 1920s gave way to a new minimalist philosophy, the international style. The prime local example of this movement is the Seagram Building, completed in 1958. Instead of stepping back incrementally, it rises as a single, sheer vertical column of glass and extruded bronze. To comply with zoning laws without using setbacks, the designers set the entire building back from the street, creating a large, open public plaza at the base. This era proved that vertical dominance could be achieved through sleek material efficiency and the strategic use of open space. Today, developers face a very different set of constraints. Instead of managing shadows or water pressure, modern architects must address the massive energy consumption inherent to giant glass skyscrapers. This environmental limit has forced a necessary architectural evolution toward green design, focusing on sustainability and resource conservation. The Hearst Tower exemplifies this modern approach. Completed in 2006, the new glass structure literally rests upon the preserved cast stone base of the original 1920s Hearst building. Its most striking structural feature is the interlocking triangular frame, known as a diagrid. This design used 20% less steel than a standard perimeter frame, and most of that steel was sourced from recycled materials. As we see in this diagram, the building features a closed-loop system that circulates outside air to heat and cool the offices. By drastically reducing its energy requirements, the tower became the first skyscraper in the city to earn a LEED Gold certification. The New York City skyline serves as a 200-year chronological record of a city hitting its absolute physical limits and